Guys, if I seem a little bit more crazier than usual, it's because I took some cold pills, so I'm feeling super drowsy, but that's alright. Hey guys, it's Sue here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the most hyped cushions on the internet right now, and it is these three babies. I have the Moonshot Micro Correct Fit Cushion, Clio Kill Cover Glow Cushion, which so many of you guys requested a review video on, and lastly I have the Missha Cover and Glow Cushion. And I feel like this is the least hyped just because I don't think people realize that this is a new cushion, just because this looks so familiar with their last cushions. This is called the Missha Glow Tension, and this is their new cushion. So flash news, guys, Missha does have a new cushion out. And before we get started, let me tell you guys about my skin type. I'm talking really fast, aren't I? It's the medicine, guys. It's the medicine, the sweat, the heat. It's getting me all flustered. My skin type, if you guys didn't know, I have combination skin. So in my T-zone, I get pretty oily. In my cheek areas, it's pretty dry. And also I have acne prone skin. So you have, I have a couple of buddies here. Say hi. And also I have sweat prone skin, which means that yes, I do sweat a lot. As a matter of fact, I'm sweating right now in this moment. For a start, I would like to share with you guys how I did my skincare, because I think skincare is also another factor that affects the performance of these cushions. Did my regular routine, skincare routine, which I did find that it's a bit more dewier. It does give me a bit more of a dewier finish, but I did use the I'm from Mugwort essence and then heading on to Ample and Hyaluronic Shot, the light version of it, and then I would finish off with the Bella Monster cream. And then I also wore sunscreen, the CosRX one. I've noticed that a lot of the YouTubers out here, when they review the cushions, they don't wear sunscreen anymore, but I couldn't do that, guys. A girl needs to wear protection, right? So other than that, I didn't use any primer, no powder, just use the cushion itself for the base makeup. Now with these three cushions, just in case you guys weren't aware, these are all dewy types. And I think these are quite different in the sense that not only are they dewy, but they also provide pretty high coverage. I think before, as consumers, we only had two options. We had the matte with the high coverage cushion, or we had the dewy but really sheer coverage cushions. But technology has evolved, and thus we are able to find some more in between. So let me actually start off with the Moonshot one. I actually did a review video on this recently, comparing this one to the Micro Set Fitting Cushion, which is one of my favorite cushions to go to during the summer, and I have definitely been using this a lot more since then, and I've been liking it more and more. However, my opinion or my impression of it pretty much stays the same. It hasn't changed a lot. So let me just break it down for you guys. The shade I'm using is 101. I used to use 201, but I'm using 101 for the brighter complexion look. So I am using 101. Right, it does have a pink undertone too. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. My skin type has a very yellow undertone. It's in between 20 and 23, but I like to wear shade 21, even though it might kind of look different on my neck. It's just something that I prefer to do, guys. So bear that in mind. First of all, one of the things I love about the Moonshot cushions is definitely the puff. I love how pointed the puff is, and you can really get it into like the nooks and crannies under the eye area especially. And the puff picks up a lot of the product. Actually, this is something that all the cushions seem to be doing. All the cushions, the puff seems to pick up a lot of the product. But with one layer, I feel like I can get a breezy coverage, a pretty sheer coverage. The coverage isn't like too crazy high. And with the second coverage, I feel like, you know, it's buildable, but it's not to like a full ass coverage. There is definitely a limit to how you can build up the coverage, definitely. Also, it does a pretty good job in adhering to my skin. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's not the worst. I mean, the most important thing is nothing seems to really dwell around, and the formula is not too thick, nor is it too thin. Obviously, as you build this on, it will feel a little thicker, but I think out of all the other two, like out of all the three cushions, this gives you the lightest appearance even as you build it up. As for the finish, this isn't too crazy dewy. Out of the three, this had the least amount of dewiness. I feel like it just gave you that really natural, healthy glow. It's very subtle, guys, very subtle. And I think the case with the new Moonshot cushion formulas is that they sort of harden themselves. They kind of fixate and kind of form this hard layer color. I mean, that characteristic was very evident in the micro setting fit cushion. That's why it gave me a very good longevity. And I felt like it happened with this one too. However, it didn't give me as like a long longevity or even a good longevity even. The longevity is where this cushion lacked the most. It is very weak against sebum and oil, so it will melt down at the end of the day or even after a couple of hours. So if you have oily skin or even partially oily skin, this will eventually melt down, which sucks because within the first 3-4 hours, this actually makes your skin look very beautiful, as if your own skin is just naturally really healthy, glowing, very fresh. It looks very fresh because even though the formula would harden itself and kind of fixate itself, it's a very thin layer. So unless you dump it on, it actually gives you a very natural, kind of healthy skin looking finish. But luckily, you can definitely reapply this without making your skin look mucky, yucky, and all that. So you can still achieve that really nice look throughout the day. Next cushion is this Clio Kill Cover Glow Cushion. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, this is indeed my favorite one. I can see why it's getting so much hype, so much love. First, the color. Let me share with you what color I got. I always use number 3 linen when it comes to Clio product. Like I said, the puff also picks up a lot of product with this one, and the puff is very squishy, which is my favorite type. I feel like the squishy puffs really do a great job in making sure these formulas stick tight to your skin. So I really like the puff and how the formula works, and the overall application process was very pleasant to use for me. It's very 쫀쫀해, like 쫀쫀. I don't understand why they don't have a word for that in English. It's such an important word when describing a formula. So basically, 쫀쫀해, it refers to how a texture feels like, especially when it feels like a rice cake, you know, the sticky rice cake, but it's not actually sticky, right? It bounces back to its original form, but it's very flexible, it's very squishy, and when we use it to describe a formula, it just means that it does a really good job in sticking to our face. So bear that in mind. This does have decent coverage. I'd say it's got a bit more coverage than the Moonshot one, but it's not as strong as the Missha one, which I'll be reviewing lastly. So I guess the coverage is a bit medium. You can build it up, but likewise with the Moonshot one, it's there's definitely a limit to how much you can actually cover it up. The best thing about this cushion for me was how well it kind of seems to fill up my pores. But if you do go overboard, this will actually emphasize and make your pores look a little messy. So you have to be sensible. Don't get overexcited like I did. And the finish is definitely more dewy. It's definitely more dewy than the Moonshot one. And I guess it's a bit more similar along the lines of the Missha one. So it does give you that really fresh, you know, yoga, 6 o'clock in the morning look. That's how fresh it looks. And as for the longevity, it surprisingly held up pretty well considering how dewy it was. And in that sense, it reminded me a lot of the Hera UV Mist cushion. That one is one of my favorite cushions. This reminded me an awful lot of that one, in the sense that even though it's very dewy, very moisturizing, it held up pretty well. It held up pretty well against my sweat, my sebum, so I was very impressed. Lastly, I'm going to go over the Missha Cover and Glow Cushion. Let me start off with the tone first. I picked mine up in Vanilla Neutral 21. And I gotta say, guys, this for me had the most grayish undertone, which personally is not my favorite. I actually like tones that are very, you know, they brighten up my complexion. It just looks like I've had 10 hours of sleep. However, I think this is really a matter of personal preference, because I do think that grayish undertones has its strengths as well. Even though the tone itself might be bright, it makes it look very natural on your skin, so it doesn't leave that, you know, that stark contrast between your neck and face. But like I said, it's just a matter of personal preference. Luckily, they released like this glow primer. If you use it with that one, I think it does compensate for the grayish tone, and I really like that base primer. And it's very subtle, so I feel like it's perfect if you have like oily skin, combination skin. Maybe like the MAC Stroke Cream was like way too much for you. I do recommend that one. Likewise, the puff is very squishy and soft like the Clio one, and it does pick up a lot of product as well. And inside, You just have like a regular cushion, and I really like this print on it actually. Very chic, I must say. And the Missha one definitely does have the highest coverage. You can definitely build it up to a full ass coverage. So the coverage is pretty up there. And it's also the dewiest. The formula is very dewy. Out of the three, it's definitely the most moisturizing, most glowy. And so because of that, I didn't necessarily feel like the formula really stuck on well to my skin. I did feel like it did dwell around a teeny tiny bit. It does seem a bit overwhelmingly glowy for me, but luckily with time, especially in this kind of weather, the formula seems to kind of dry and harden itself onto my skin, so it didn't go crazily oily at the end of the day, which thank goodness, or else I think my skin would have like melted under the sebum. And it did kind of look a little messy around my pores. You can definitely touch up on this as well. So yeah, I just went through these cushions one by one, kind of telling you guys how my experience was with them. And let me just give you guys a brief summary, and I'm going to tell you guys the best and the worst points or the characteristic of each cushion. So let's start with the Moonshot one. The best characteristic about this Moonshot cushion is that within the first 3-4 hours, this makes your skin look super healthy, super fresh, super clean. So it really gives you that perfect skin look. The biggest downside of this cushion is that it's very weak against sebum, so it melts really easily. Next, with the Clio one, the best thing about this cushion is that it's so 쫀쫀해, like it really sticks onto your skin. However, I guess the downside is that if you go overboard, it will look a little messy, so you have to be a bit more careful with how much you use. The best thing about the Missha cushion is its coverage. It definitely has the highest coverage out of all these three. It's definitely buildable to a full ass coverage. However, the worst thing about this cushion for me personally was the tone itself, just because I don't like grayish tones in general. And I do think that it really comes down to your preference, right? Each of these cushions do have their own fortes, but personally, I have to give it up for Clio's new cushion. For me, this is probably my favorite just because it's so easy to work with. The whole application process feels really nice, and the formula sticks on very well. So this actually lives in my pouch. I take it out with me nowadays. It's super easy to retouch. It doesn't muck up, and it's just a really easy cushion that I just reach out for. That was it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found it helpful. If it did, don't forget to press like and subscribe to my channel, and also follow me on Instagram @_SueBeauty, and I'll see you guys in the next. Ciao! Also have a major cramp in my leg, so I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. The sunlight is pretty feeling what? I honestly can't feel my leg. Put on a shoe and tie. Go, go, baby! Damn!